enough to make a pancake, that's for sure.
Oh, yes.
Is this better?
Is this better?
Is this better?
That was a really bad chord.
It was kind of crunchy, but it wasn't the worst thing ever.
No. Not the worst.
It could have been more dissonant.
It could have been worse. It could have been better.
Have you guys ever listened to Sleep by Eric Whitaker?
Yes, I have. I might have.
I mean, I've played it once or twice while I was cooking, so you might have heard it when that was happening. But
Listened to and heard are different.
yes, indeed. It's a song that employs a lot of dissonance that sounds really, really good.
Oh yeah, it can be done really well.
Yes.
Thomas the Tank Engine theme song, but it's like harmonized slightly wrong.
That was actually really cool.
With
Like it still works because music theory, but
well, I mean, works and sounds good are different things.
right. But I mean that was kind of the whole point, just to make it sound bad. But
Yeah.
how was it's been a little bit since we've recorded, although as far as the audience knows,
No time.
yeah,
has
no time
passed.
at all has passed.
I mean,
Except for the normal week that you always wait.
Right.
Always, as in the once.
As in the last once.
The last onceler.
That is assuming this is released in order, and we're not just talking out the other side of our face.
Right.
I mean, I don't have another side of my face to talk out of, so...
How many sides does a face have? Like
Two.
a human face. Obviously,
The
like
inside and the outside.
geometrically speaking, a face is like a plane on one side of a
Yeah, but
3D
it
object.
depends on the person, because every person's face is different.
True. Geometrically. I suppose if you went in and did like a laser scan of somebody's face and put it in like some sort of 3D software, and counted all of like the polygons that made up their face
Mm-hmm.
in the millions or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, Harvey Dent has two sides.
To his face and his personality.
That's like his.
That's
entire
the
gimmick.
gag.
That's the joke I was trying to be funny with.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just went
They-
and
they-
had to
when-
ruin it.
Then I went and ruined it. Like I do.
Yeah, James just ruins everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well.
What can you do?
I will waffle back and forth between taking a joke seriously and then going along with the joke.
It's usually proportional to the degree to which you understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just don't get it at all, you'll just be like, I'm just going to roll with this because I have no clue what's going on.
Exactly.
Maybe try to bounce something back that changes the subject slightly, mostly because you don't understand the joke.
Yep. Or try to like infer from what you guys are saying then what you're talking about and playing along as if I know instead of just admitting I don't know. But I'm gonna get mocked either way, so it's kind of a no-win situation. So I just roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Well,
how's everybody's week thus far?
my week's been weird. It's
Mhm.
just like you blinked and it was Thursday, but every one of the days in between felt extremely long and excruciating.
I'd agree.
Hmm.
It was weird because like this week was like that for me at work too, and then I texted my brother. I'm like this week or no, it was last week, but like late last week. I was like, man, this week refuses to end, and he's like, I know it's been that way for me. So it must be something about this time of year
Yeah.
in this part of the world where it just feels like everything lasts forever. Like until,
Because the night lasts forever.
right,
It's
Although,
starting to not. It's
starting to not. I feel like the angle of the sunlight just kind of makes you think that maybe it should be later in the year than it is. And so it kind of tricks your body clock and be like, oh, is it March now?
Mm-hmm.
Not quite. Or,
Fun-
well, I guess by the time this comes out, or no, it'll still be February.
Funny thing is about this week is that I've kind of felt the opposite, being the only one of us that is still in school,
Mm-hmm.
and not to date this, but President's Day happened.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had a day that was just an extra day of my weekend because I also didn't work that day. So if anything, it's been a little shorter for me.
I never liked long weekends when I was in school. Like, I liked them, but then I didn't like the fact that you still had to get as much done in a normal school week as you would otherwise, and you had one less day to do it. Unless I didn't figure out that I should start doing homework until like later. I think it was junior year or something. I started actually doing homework on like Mondays off, and it was so nice. I became lame. I at work. Speaking of being lame, at work, I previously I didn't really know how to do spreadsheets like at all, but I've been learning like different like really simple formulas and stuff.
Man,
and like
I do spreadsheets all the time.
getting
Just one more equation.
give me just another hit,
One more page.
of that sum
Are
equals.
you doing math again?
Or, like that one guy we know who's he's like, so you guys program, right? It's like I can write programs in Excel that are almost as good as what you guys can do.
Yeah. This guy, our friend Dylan, shout out Dylan, we were taking
listening,
a car
hello.
ride.
If you
And
weren't
I know
listening,
you
what's
are.
up with you?
And I know you are. We were taking a car ride up to Duluth to visit one of our friends.
We have a lot of friends.
We have a lot is
A lot is
a
relative.
stretch. It's a stretch.
Yeah.
Anyway, so me being a computer science student at the time, we were talking about computer science stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I can program just as well as you.
Mechanical.
I can write Excel macros," and I just burst out laughing because, of
Mechanical
course,
engineer.
Excel macros are things you learn about doing day one in computer science, or like that sort of programming. So it's just like real basic stuff, and I'm like, I just rattled off a bunch of questions at him, and he's like, "No idea what I'm talking about." I'm like, "Yep, exactly."
Yep. It was a 4-hour car ride. So it was rather entertaining. I think by the end of it, we were talking about if a monkey had eternity and a typewriter, could it write Shakespeare?
Probability says it would happen eventually.
Yeah. That's,
Provided the monkey was actually willing to type perpetually.
you know, we should ask Monsignor that question at some point. I'd be curious to see what his answer would be. Of course, well, it'd probably be way simpler and not as long and drawn out. He'd probably just be like,
No.
no. Yeah. I mean, mathematically possible and realistically probable or not.
If given a literal infinity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a fun car ride that one day. Well,
Tell you what, you name the monkey Shakespeare, and anything it types is a work of Shakespeare.
there you go. That's the answer to the conundrum right there. I was trying to remember. See, I always remember like half of an interesting thing and try to like, by explaining it out loud, see if I can remember the rest of it. There's some sort of, I forget what the mental or what like the I see now I can't even remember what you call these, but like mind puzzle, not mind puzzles, that's dumb.
Mind Castle?
No, it's like those hypothetical problems.
Hypothetical problems?
Yeah, we'll just go with that. It's gonna kill me. But like
Thought experiments?
thought experiment. Thank you. At one point I was reading like these really like simple, dumb solutions to thought experiments, and for some reason it just struck me as really funny.
Because they're generally stuff that people have like contemplated forever.
Mhm.
Just like the whole relativity time thought experiment, and how
Mhm.
like a ship moving at the third of light speed traveling in parallel to a ship moving at half of light speed, and how fast the light gets to wherever they're seeing it, and the perception of where they are versus where they actually are in space is different.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole relativity thought experiment is just like something people have been thinking about and debating about for
Ever since Einstein,
yeah.
I suppose.
Other such thought experiments like the trolley problem have turned into entire genre of memes. Genre.
It didn't I think Cyanide and Happiness has like a card game called Trolley Tom, where you have to choose like between this thing or the other thing, like you kill these people or kill that person or something like that. I don't know.
Interesting. That might be fun to drag out after a few beverages have been imbibed.
A few more than we usually have when we're recording this.
You could always just do some multi-track drifting.
Just be like go all Polar Express and just like hit the brake and the gas, and that's how you turn a train on ice. Apparently, if you're like everybody is Tom Hanks, that'd be like. Actually, I would watch it if it was well, because everybody in Polar Express is already Tom Hanks, but
except for the
but
kids.
if every voice track was just the Tim Allen. I'd make it far more entertaining.
I would watch a movie where everyone is voiced by Nick Cage.
I've seen videos where people like dub over all the characters as Nick Cage.
Right.
There's this channel I think called Nick Cage Reviews or something like that. It's like, okay, let's ride. That's like how he starts every episode.
That's funny.
And I think he gives it like movies he's not in like a negative score because he's not in them, if I remember correctly. Or like some Nick Cage movie trope isn't part of the movie, so he like gives it a thumbs down.
Yelling and pointing.
Yeah. Not the bees. Not the bees. Bees, Yzma. Did Kronk, when he got fired by her, did he get an easement payment? That was bad.
She probably tried to give him severance pay.
Yes, indeed.
Didn't quite work.
Probably wouldn't have. He'd have bumbled around it.
Mm-hmm. From above, evildoers shall receive their just reward.
That'll work.
So it's that Emperor's New Groove is one of those movies where there's just so much packed into it, and yet it's such a short movie.
Kind of is.
I think it's only like 90 minutes, something like that.
That is
like
the
an hour and a-
topic of today's discussion.
No, we are not. That was not a clever segue.
No,
We're talking about something entirely different.
Yeah.
So we're going to use this heavy-handed segue to
Heavy-
introduce our podcast.
more like quick about face to keep James from rambling on complete tangent. But yes, we are the Palladian Papists. I'm James,
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Reilly.
and today we are going to talk about World of Warcraft.
No,
3.
we aren't.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft is bad. It is not canon. It is a fan fiction. We're talking about the OG Warcraft, the RTS games 1 through 3.
Why did you tell me earlier? We were
Told
talking
you
about
I was
Warcraft
talking
3?
about Warcraft 3, not World of Warcraft.
Oh,
Because World of Warcraft sucks,
okay.
and the RTS games are good and cool.
This is another one of those things. I guess a better segue would have been like, I don't know things, and when I try to talk about kind of a conversation, like just like right there, I was trying to act like I knew what I was talking about. I know next to nothing about World of Warcraft, so this is where Reilly's expertise.
I know
is.
that it's a thing.
Yes.
That it was a mediocre movie. And
Okay,
that-
the movie wasn't even called World of Warcraft. It
What
was
was it
called
called?
Warcraft.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's what I
easier
And
to
it was
find.
also
talking about
a
Warcraft.
horrid butchering of the Warcraft universe.
anyhow.
Anyways, so I am going to be giving a little analysis of the artistic qualities of the Warcraft series before World of Warcraft, because they really killed it after that. So I'm a purist, and the World of Warcraft retconned a lot of things. For those of you who might not be familiar with the term, retconning is like writing something after another part of a story. So imagine like
X-Men. Just think X-Men series.
retroactively removing or changing something in a story.
Yes,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So there are like very key elements of the creation story of the Warcraft universe that the first expansion of WoW, called the Burning Crusade, just totally wiped off the face of everything. And they're just like, nope. Hey, you people who created this franchise, we don't care about your origin story. We're going to do it all because we can't sell this character. And I'll
Even
get
though it's already
into
been sold.
that. I'll
Yeah.
get into that.
Maybe I guess before we get too launched into the salt, How about like a brief introduction to Warcraft?
I don't know how you really do that. I mean, people's perceptions of Warcraft are like neckbeards on raid chats in World of Warcraft. But
Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins. For my purposes, Warcraft is a series of RTS games, real-time strategy. So it's kind of like building and commanding an army in real time, not just controlling one person like World of Warcraft does.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
So it's more of a game a la Age of Empires or Stronghold or any of those other older RTS games.
Battle for Middle-earth.
Battle for Middle-earth and Buff Me Too.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the RTS game. Yeah. So anyway, it's a story about primarily the battles between orcs and humans in the first one, and then the second one. The first and second one are primarily about the wars between the humans of a world called Azeroth and the orcs that are from a planet called Draenor. And they were put in conflict with one another by the Burning Legion, which is
the Fire Nation.
Assembly of demons, actually.
Okay.
Led by Sargeras, who is the fallen titan. And I'm going to explain...
So Thanos.
No, I mean, in title, and that's where the similarities end.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you a bit of the origin story.
He's got
here from
the whole
the
book.
Original manual for Warcraft 3.
In pretty good shape, I might add.
Yes. I mean, this was probably from one of the later copies that I bought. This is not like a 2002 first edition, but...
The 2002 boys be drooling at the thought of that.
Yeah, I have one somewhere. I just don't. It's probably at my dad's place. Here we go. So, Sargeras, the titan that we just talked about, he was like the sort of enforcer of all of the titans. The titans were these like very powerful beings that are like considered gods but aren't really gods, that are just like incredibly powerful.
Cast down by Odin, or
Well,
no, never mind.
no,
Sorry, yeah,
no.
from Mount Olympus.
Yeah, Odin.
It has a very Greek feel to it in terms of this origin story, because it's like sort of pagan but sort
Zeus.
of
That's what I couldn't remember his
mythological
name.
but also not. But
Yeah.
anyway, so the Titans are these like giant metallic beings that go around shaping worlds. There is no like fixed origin story. Like nobody knows exactly how the universe was created. They just know that the Titans came and were there and basically shaped everything that we know in the universe.
Are absolutely mediocre as a football team.
Yeah. So the Titans, they all went forth and started, shaping worlds into something and imbuing those planets with life forms and things like that. And the demons, who we also don't know the exact precise origins of, are just like this perpetual force of chaos that is a foil to the Titans trying to create order out of things. So they appoint Sargeras as kind of their enforcer to kind of beat back the demons, just go around and capture them and make sure that they don't cause too much trouble. But what I think is really interesting about Sargeras is the way he reacts to all of this. And I'm just going to read you some of this story to give you some context into that. To combat the demonic entities that made their way into the Titans' worlds from the twisting nether, the Pantheon elected their greatest warrior, Sargeras, to act as their first line of defense. Sargeras, a noble giant of molten bronze, carried out his duties for countless millennia, seeking out and destroying the demons wherever he could find them. Over the eons, Sargeras encountered two powerful demonic races, both of which were bent on gaining power and dominance over the physical universe.
But legally equal. Nothing. Keep talking.
The Eridar, an insidious race of devilish sorcerers, used their warlock magics to enslave a number of worlds they had invaded. The indigenous races of those worlds were mutated by the Eridar's chaotic powers and turned into demons themselves. Though Sargeras' nearly limitless powers were more than enough to defeat the vile Eridar, he was greatly troubled by the creature's corruption and all-consuming evil. Unable to fathom such depravity and spite, the great Titan slipped into a brooding depression. Despite his growing unease, Sargeras sought to rid the universe of the Warlocks for all time by trapping them within a vacuous corner of the Twisted Nether. What are you laughing at over there?
Nothing at all.
Obviously, you're laughing at something. Let's hear it.
I just appreciate how equally evil the two demon races are. I guess that's
Why is that so comical?
equality among all. Never mind. I'm being dumb. Keep talking.
He would calm down for a moment. Look at me, giving him this.
Like, please stop.
Please
Look.
stop. Look. And he'd crack up again.
Yep.
So there's a similar story told about the Nathrazim, who are like these vampiric demons, who are sort of like, they're more of the cunning and sly type than the just overbearingly evil type, but they're similarly nasty. And Sargeras defeated them similarly easily, but they also made him very sad, much as the Eridar did.
It's like a side effect.
So like he encounters this obscene and like unabashed evil, and he just doesn't get it, because the Titans are these altruistic beings who are like, they have no concept of evil. They're like not capable of evil, but he like comes to understand it by coming into contact with it, and it like starts to affect him. So I'm gonna continue
was,
on
like, a
here.
Content tester at Facebook. That would just absolutely destroy him.
More like modern Blizzard.
Yeah, that too. Anyway, continuing on.
Mm-hmm.
The noble Sargeras, unable to process the raging doubt and despair that overwhelmed his senses, lost all faith in not only his mission, but the Titan's vision of an ordered universe as well. Sargeras began to believe that the concept of order itself was folly, and that chaos and depravity were the only absolutes within the dark, lonely universe. Though his fellow Titans tried to persuade him of his error and console his raging emotions, he disregarded their theories as delusional. Storming from their ranks forever, Sargeras set out to find his Sargeras set out to find his own place in the universe. Though the Pantheon was sorrowful for his departure, they would never believe just how far their lost brother would go. And so eventually he is so corrupted by all of this darkness that he runs into that he just is totally lost, and he explodes into a giant ball of flaming hatred and like enslaves the demons and makes them work for him basically, and becomes the source and like capital evil in the universe.
He became the very thing he set out to destroy.
That's exactly right.
It's like if Doom Guy became like the king of demons. It'd be
Yeah, basically.
All right.
So what are you guys' thoughts on that? Like, does that story sound at all familiar to you?
Well, it's obviously not like a direct analogy, but more like a sort of fable, I guess, on loss of like despair, I suppose, and like encountering so much evil in the world and not really being able to process it, and just kind of falling into despair and hatred and becoming the thing you hate itself, I guess.
But there's a specific being that exists. Lucifer, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that pretty interesting for a secular thing that is not really trying to be a Christian mythos, to do something that is so archetypally similar to Satan. But
I mean, it's a good story. It resonates because it's true, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I feel like that's just our entire experience of modernity is we as Catholics are out here trying to live the good life and be untainted by the world, but we just come into so much darkness.
We're irradiated by the
evil. We just get irradiated by the despair that's out there. So
don't even do anything cool like grow new limbs. We just become like depressed. Well, and that's the thing though, like people, even if they're steeped in the evil of the world to some degree. Like I guess we don't always recognize it if we haven't been formed properly. But I mean, there's obviously like something to be said about like even though this is one of the most prosperous times in human history, like the most prosperous, you still have people like life expectancy, I think at least in the United States, has dropped because of like suicide rates, because people are depressed by the evil they see in the world and are hopeless because they don't have, I guess, they don't have any hope in like being able to bring good to it. So they just kind of succumb, or maybe not as serious as like suicide, but then just kind of fall into like despair or even give in to the evil influences from without to some varying degree.
I thought it was interesting when he stopped listening to the advice of his peers in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went and made a place in the world for himself, which ended up being very bad news.
Like worse.
Like the worst possible news.
Mm-hmm. Like like we said, became like the very thing he was trying to destroy in the first place.
So without the support system of his fellow Titans and their objective moral truth, without them to rely on and keep him accountable and hold him to a standard, when he set his own place in the world, when he set his own goals apart from them, he fell farther than anyone ever thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up being a gigantic pain in the butt for the whole of Azeroth throughout the games, but he isn't directly involved because he's just Beezy being evil incarnate. He has some demons that are kind of his chief agents for Azeroth. So the main one you have conflicts with are Kil'jaeden and Archimonde throughout the series, but mostly in Warcraft 3. So they're kind of yes, Kil'jaeden.
That sounds like two words.
It's Kil''Jaed.
We're not advocating that anyone kill Jaden. If you're a
Jaden,
you're safe.
You're safe. We're not gonna kill you.
We're not we would no.
Demon guys, wouldn't put it past him. But us, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the main story of Warcraft 3, which is kind of relevant in the news lately because they've just released a remaster for it. So if you've never played it, I believe it's free to play now. So you can just go in and play the old classic campaign, and yeah, it's a really cool experience. But the story of Warcraft 3 revolves largely around one of the human princes, whose name is Arthas, and he has he's almost an archetype of Sargeras because he starts out as sort of this staunch defender of his kingdom, and even though he's a prince, he's out fighting on the front lines because he's that passionate about protecting his people. But over the course of the campaign that he's on, he encounters several, very evil entities. He runs into one of the Dreadlords, who is kind of this a similar figure to what the demons were to Sargeras, in as much as they are just this pinnacle of despair, trying to sell him this prophecy that he's doomed to join them, basically. And he's like, well, you're turning all these people into undead, because that's kind of the thing the humans are fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this undead plague that's taking over his kingdom, and he's trying to fight to stop it. And so, like, this Dreadlord keeps appearing to him and saying, you're going to join us. He's like, no! And then he's like, okay. Come, like, fight off my minions. And so he's just, like, on this quest to kill this Dreadlord. Like, he's so hell-bent on defeating this guy that he kind of just gets sucked into an ends justify the means situation. And he takes this sword called Frostmourne, which is, like, a very powerful weapon, but also, unbeknownst to him, will like take over his soul, basically.
Oh dang!
Like it will like put a mental connection to the Lich King, who's the ruler of the undead. So he's like so driven for his quest to save his people that he's willing to do anything. Like he strands his entire crew on basically the northern version of Antarctica. He burns down his own
North
ships.
Pole.
Yeah, but it's like a whole continent, so it's not the
Greenland?
North Pole. Greenland's not a continent.
It's part of North America, I suppose.
But he's like so driven to get his people to do this that he burns down the ships so they literally can't leave. So he strands his own soldiers there because he wants to get this sword. And so he takes the sword and he like is like, at this point, his taking of the sword is like the point of no return. Like he's gone at this point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another one of those situations where he was like this pinnacle of justice, but he was also young and rash and immature and not very well counseled. Well, the difference is that he had a close friend, another paladin named Uther, who was like kind of a family friend of sorts, and he was kind of like his mentor.
Kind of an anchor in his life, I
but
suppose.
he didn't listen to what Uther had to tell him throughout.
He had
and then
Uther ideas.
Uther ideas.
Sorry.
So yeah,
But
it's
I'm
kind
not.
of
I appreciate that.
it's a very archetypal story.
Sort
so
of.
that's just the 1/8 of the whole story of Warcraft 3. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but
Right.
it's a bit more. After that point, it's kind of just Arthas against the world.
So that's where that's
the point of conflict for the rest of the game.
so that's kind of where the I guess the central conflict kind of stabilizes and plateaus.
Well, it's where it starts, because immediately following the human campaign is the undead campaign, because Arthas, having taken Frostmourne, is turned into a Death Knight. So now he's undead. He is zombie, but he's more than a regular zombie. He's like a good-looking, non-decomposed zombie because plot.
And character
He
design.
has plot armor. Imagine a video game where you get an item that's like basically in easy mode called plot armor. And it's like you put it on the one character and he can't die like at all.
I'd play that game.
I mean, your other party members could probably die.
Oh, I'd play that game.
Yeah. So he basically, the rest of it is him making decisions that are kind of simultaneously refuting the Dreadlords who are trying to make him do what Sargeras wants, and what he's trying to serve the Lich King at the same time, who is kind of trapped by the demons and kind of wants to get out from under their noses and do his own thing. So yeah, that's what most of the other stuff is.
So I guess, given all that, what can we as Catholics draw from these stories? The story of like the original, like the Titan and Sargeras.
Sargeras and Arthas, you mean?
Arthas, yeah. See there, right?
Arthas is the dude.
Sargeras is the Titan.
Yeah.
All right.
First and foremost, I think, is like maintain a community of people who are willing to reproach you and
keep you from going off the deep end.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we all know at least one person who's just gotten so passionate about like this thing they see is important, and it probably is, but like become so consumed by it that they just kind of turn into not a total nut job, but a nut job to some degree, whether that be like some sort of political ideal or hyper traditional way of living or what have you, or like super like wacko,
or just even too focused on your own apostolate as like the only thing that's going to save the church.
Or so focused on how you think a certain student ministry program should be run that you turn into one salty boy.
We don't know anyone like that, do we?
No, that's
this isn't
nobody we're
introspective
talking
at all, especially not for me or a group of our friends with the exact same problem.
because you left.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got that. What else?
Well, I guess the things that Sargeras and Arthas both lacked, I suppose, well, like in Sargeras' case, he kind of rejected the counsel of his peers. Arthas,
They both
he
kind
had
of
like a mentor, but like they both were sort of cut off from something that would, I guess, give them, like, ground them in goodness and like keep them on like the path of virtue and so forth, and not obsessiveness. And so I guess in our lives too, like when we lose sight of God and things are important and like virtuous living, it's easy to kind of fall into like different sins or vices or what have you, you know, if we aren't constantly like drawing from the well of grace and stuff to live our lives. Because the more you steep your, or like say, the more you try to battle evil on your own merits and on your own, just like through sheer force of will, or whatever difficulty or struggle you're having, like try to like brute force your way through something on your own, it can kind of go sour, I suppose.
And an interesting thing, from what it sounds like in the case of the Titan, it doesn't sound like he really talked to his other Titans, or they didn't really understand what he was going through.
Oh, I mean, it pretty clearly says they don't understand, because they're like, oh, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but bye. Like,
So not only did he not truly reach out and but he also didn't get the help he needed from them because they just didn't want to see it his way, or didn't see it his way.
They just didn't understand
his
where
problem.
where his emotions were.
So
they weren't meeting him where he was at.
You should not be that. That's not the kind of friend you should be if you know someone in that situation.
Try to understand.
You need to understand
them.
where they're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
But while also not going into their problem, having their problem.
Like, yeah, not getting so like wrapped up in it that, yeah. Like,
but at the same time, you need to have that perspective and see it from their point of view and understand them, so that you can help them.
Yeah.
Right?
So you can develop that empathetic sort of, like when you understand the person and their situation, then you can better equip them and yourself to deal with their problem. Because if you're like too involved and too close, then you get caught up in it yourself and you can't really see it as objectively. But if you're too detached, you can't really be charitable, I guess, and empathetic as you need to be able to, like, you know, help that person in their struggle. So it's like finding that balance, I suppose.
Another important lesson: magical zombie snow swords are bad.
Yeah.
If you find a magical zombie snow sword,
do not pick it up.
Touch.
In northern Antarctica, don't pick it up, and don't burn your ship so you can leave this terrible situation. Don't
kill the indigenous creatures who helped you do it after the fact. Don't do that either.
I killed them all, every single one of them.
Not just the men,
but
the ogres and the trolls too.
For some reason, my mind just went to Ray going crazy on all the porgs on that island for some reason. I'd watch that movie.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then.
It does now. Let the porgs die.
Kill them if you have to.
Things like that are supposed to be like whether they're minions or, like, you know, supposed to be cute, huggable, sellable merchandise. I mean, characters in a movie. Just make me, like, all the more, I guess, almost repulsed by them in that sort of fashion.
They're just
it's like, kill it with fire.
Good Chewbacca.
Yeah. Eat them. They're toasted, they're crunchable, they're nice.
Toasted pork. So sweet.
What's pork so precious?
Mash them, boil them.
Please, sir, may I have some pork?
I suppose, like, those arcs are sort of reminiscent. I guess while we're on this Lord of the Rings kick, they're sort of reminiscent of Boromir in a way.
Except he redeems himself at the end.
True, but still paid the price for his, I guess, falling from for becoming so hyper focused on the thing he thought, because his deal is he wants to save Gondor and the free world from Sauron by using the ring against Sauron, without properly understanding that the ring, being pure evil would, consume him and make him become pure evil. So it's kind of a similar arc, I suppose.
Pure evil is kind of an oxymoron.
A bit. Well, it depends on
on
pure.
what you define pure as.
But like, I found that odd. It's like, evil can't be pure. That's the whole point.
If we're talking pure in the sense of like the virtuous, like no blemish, or pure as in like closest to, I guess like one part of the spectrum, like pure good versus pure evil would be like instead of somewhere in between, like they're very like homogeneically. I don't know if that's a word. I'm gonna pretend it is. Homogeneously.
Homogeneously.
There we go. That's better.
Homogeneity.
Yes. Should have been a Honda. Cool. All right.
Well, that was an attempt at being somewhat funny that led to a semi-serious tangent.
Yeah.
That's kind of this episode, I feel like.
Yeah. In terms of the like visual and other sorts of more less story oriented and more kind of to the game specifically, like the visual elements, I mean, the game is 17 years old.
Right.
So if you didn't play it when you were a child, it probably doesn't look fantastic.
When it was new.
When it was new, it
if
was
you're old enough.
Stunning. It was like, I remember opening that game up the first time as a kid, and I was just like blown away. I mean, it was in, 640p and like maybe even 400p at that point.
On your tube monitor that weighed as much as a young rhinoceros.
Yeah. But it was just like so far beyond most anything that like computers were capable of at that time that it was just, it was gorgeous. So, I mean, for someone who's been playing it since basically it came out, it holds up very well. But if you're not used to it, it certainly looks dated. It's a very colorful game. So
a lot of the older games really relied on color a lot more than
because
now.
they didn't have all of this hyper detail to work with. So
they couldn't make gray look interesting.
I mean, people still can't make gray look
Skyrim
interesting.
can make gray look interesting,
I suppose.
But Skyrim is Skyrim. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yep.
But yeah, the visuals are, I mean, I like them a lot. Because I'm looking at with them in nostalgia colored glasses.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that for real. But the soundtracks are incredible. Like, except for the undead, I'm not very fond of that one. But like for all of the other races, the music is just, it really evokes the fantasy of the different races. There's human, orc, night elf, which is kind of like they're a very
Malekith
tree. They like trees and the moon, so that's kind of their aesthetic.
Trees and the moon, man.
Yeah, it's and
let's go hit up the Dreadlord for some.
Oh, there's literally a joke about that. One of his Easter egg voice lines is, "Oh, for the last time, I'm a Dreadlord, not a drug lord."
That's pretty good.
If you click on a unit over and over and over again, it'll start to go into their Easter egg voice lines.
Nice.
But yeah, the night elves are kind of a matriarchal society, so the women do all the fighting and the men just sleep all day.
I could get behind that if I really want to be like.
They sleep for
like
hundreds of years.
Okay, maybe not
because they're immortal. But
Amazonian. Get your Amazon basics warrior wife. That's what the.
Alexa.
All of the soundtracks are very good at evoking the fantasy of the races.
Alexa, drive out the barbarians. Free Rome from the Goths. All right. Well, I guess for those of us who, I mean, we sort of given an introduction to Warcraft, but what's something that those of us who don't have as deep of an appreciation, or well, like aren't really all that interest. What's sort of like a layman's takeaway for Warcraft? I guess for those who are listening to this,
Apart from what I've already given, I don't know. I thought I've pretty well established anything that's kind of takeawayable.
sure, that makes sense. That's pretty good.
I don't know. I can't
War,
really think of anything.
elves, orcs, war,
Fantasy.
fantasy,
Yes.
real-time strategy,
Real-time strategy.
good, accidentally Catholic storytelling.
I mean, that's just everything, honestly.
Well, yeah, because
Everything that attempts to be sincere art will contain something of the truth.
the sort of medieval mythological or mythos, like the different archetypes and things like that, just kind of still burn in the psyche, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
The collective. Yeah.
Honestly, if it draws from inspiration from things like Tolkien at all, I mean,
Right there.
he was very, very influenced by his faith.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
That's about it, I guess.
once again, thank you for listening. We've been the Palladian Papists. We're working on improving, I guess, our distribution.
Yeah. RSS is dumb.
Yeah. We're trying to get a website going so things are easier. We don't have to send you over to SoundCloud. I mean, if you have SoundCloud, that's
You
all
can
fine.
find us on archive.org.
Yeah, if you can figure out how to use it. But yeah, we're working on getting a website up. In the meantime, we'll continue to probably be on SoundCloud. So I guess like, follow, share, do all the things. Actually, one thing that could be helpful, we have a new Twitter. We set up a Twitter account. So yeah, at Paula Papis.
Paula Papists.
It's like the shield emblem. That's us.
P-A-L-A, right?
P-A-L-A.
Not Paula.
P-A-L-L-A.
P-A-U-L-A as in
Two L's.
Oh, two L's.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah. So if you could follow us, retweet the dumb things that I will be saying, or Reilly might be saying, slightly more intelligent dumb things. That'd be fantastic. Like us on Facebook.
We also have an email if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints. PalladianPapists@gmail.com.
If you can remember that, PalladianPapists@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you as long as you're nice. We'll be nice. If fool me twice, shame on me. I forget. But yeah.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
That's how that goes.
Only 3 times. I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Heads I win, tails you lose. But yeah, if you could, if you know anybody, I guess who'd be interested in what we're talking about, congratulations. Share our podcast with them. And we're sorry, you don't get a golden ticket and go to the Palladian Papist world of
World of pure imagination.
the world of Wes Anderson films and assorted random YTPs and memes and crap. Although that would be so much fun to make an entire Willy Wonka style theme park where it's all just the YouTube poofs and memes, things like that. Yeah, but if you know anybody who'd be interested or not interested but willing to charitably listen for your sake and eventually come to like us, that'd be great. So yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the positive internet things.
Maybe a couple negative things. Who cares? It's your life.
If you have constructive criticism, we have a friend of ours who's been listening to this. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Hello, John.
We love you, John.
our-
You'll probably be on here someday soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because we
if
love you
can
so
figure
much.
out the microphone situation for it.
our biggest critic and supporter at the same time. And if you have constructive feedback like that, go for it.
Like the stuff he's been leaving that you are totally familiar with and know.
Right. Because
You're him. Hello,
because
John.
it's publicly available. Because
Yeah.
John is our one listener.
little does he know we're actually publishing everything he says in our group chat to the World Wide Web.
Thank you to all 35 of you who've listened as of last time I checked.
Yes, we definitely appreciate you listening and putting up
Probably
with
only more like 24 because there was 24 on the first episode and 11 on the second.
I actually haven't listened to any of our podcasts once they've been uploaded. Like, I do like a quality check. I'll just kind of like scrub through the... That's like the editing term. You like use the... Anyway, scrub through the podcast to make sure everything's working properly. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, I do all the editing. But
you listen to it.
you do something that even I don't do, which is listen to it on SoundCloud. So we appreciate it.
And
yeah, we better wrap this up.
better.
All right, we will talk to you guys next week.
Have we developed an outro, or did we just botch it several times over?
I think we botched it several times over.
I started writing an exit script, but we didn't look at it. So
Well, we couldn't find his laptop cord.
I mean, it's on the Google Doc.
Oh,
Pull up the Google Doc quick.
There's really nothing on it. It's literally just the email address.
oh, right.
So far, I'm like, you guys can contribute to it with stuff that you want to say, so we can have a consistent outro. But
I think our own personal Twitters, if you so care. I'm really new to this Twitter thing, but if you want to follow us individually, Nathan doesn't have Twitter, but Reilly and I do. I think we'll
I think I do. I just forget what the handle I put on there was. And
if you want wild Hearthstone content, you can go to my Twitter because that's most of what my
if
Twitter
you want
is.
dumb shower thoughts from me that can range all over the place from anywhere and everywhere in between, go ahead.
If you want to be left well enough alone, follow me.
That sums it up pretty well. All right. Well, God bless, guys. We will talk to you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.